All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good everything else. How
Well,
you doing, Anna?
if somebody is maybe living underground, they wouldn't know if it's morning or afternoon. And
I mean, we got
having those,
phones now. Your phone can tell you.
well, yeah, sure. The backgrounds that we have behind us are always the same thing, so you don't know sun, night, or
You could tell
whatever
from
it
the
is.
sunlight hitting our faces.
Well, maybe it's lighting. Maybe who knows?
So today we are doing the same format, replying to posts on the Exmuslim subreddit. We're gonna try to take callers if anyone comes in. We're going to try to reply to all the chat. Today's poll question: do you think the logic that goes by ends justifies the means works for an ex-Muslim parent using coercion or force to prevent their kids from being Muslims? The link is in the chat, and we will discuss the results at the end and discuss, the philosophy around it. So please do that, everyone. Let's see. Okay, we're already on the main topic. This is going smooth every time. All right. The first one I'd like to look at. I don't even know if this is one that we should be doing, but maybe you can help me decide. It starts off saying, "Does magic really exist?" But then you read the post, and the title is misleading. They're not questioning whether magic exists. They're wondering, why do people believe this stuff? Okay. Do you want to read? Should I read it out loud? It's really
Yeah,
short.
yeah. No, I think it's a good idea always to read.
Unless it's
At
very
least,
long, and then we'll just skim.
yes, some of the later ones might be a little bit long, but I think it's worth reading at least some portion of what the people say, because just looking at the title sometimes, like this one, for example, it doesn't really capture what the person is trying to convey.
Real quick, I got a comment. Can you organize an online database for ex-Muslims to follow other ex-Muslims' burner social media accounts? What does that mean? I don't. Do you know what it means?
Yeah, I think I know what that means. So, if you want to preserve anonymity, probably you can set up a few accounts that don't actually connect to your identity directly, to your real identity directly. And so it's possible for people to safely start having some kind of interaction with one another. I'm not sure exactly how
What would be the
safe.
purpose of the database? Why would anyone want to go look at the database?
To just make connections with the like-minded people, because if people are living in a society that doesn't allow you to interact freely as an ex-Muslim, then it makes sense to do that in other channel during with using other channels. But I think this might not necessarily be needed, because if you go on all platforms of social media, you will find that there are um, actual organized groups of people basically saying we are ex-Muslims, we are ex-Muslims atheists, we are ex-Muslims whatever.
And then
And
the question I have is, who's inputting the data?
well, that's probably going to be a kind of the reason why this person is saying it to us is maybe if we are willing to create some kind of a seed, a centralized initial snowball, then that can gather momentum as it's rolling down the hill. Maybe that's my guess. But but
I don't really understand it, so I definitely can't do it unless I understood it better. Also, I
but
don't
what
have any tech knowledge to be able to do such things.
so what the proposal is saying is essentially what many of these groups on Facebook, on Twitter, on X, whatever it is, have right now, which is people enter with fake identities and interact with each other, whether for it's for discussion, for hanging out, for having some kind of a
So
special.
social media already exists, so they're all separate systems. So they're saying let's make one system that shows you all of them, but it only takes you to those. It doesn't actually show any.
Yeah, but I think that the difference in this proposal is that if you have a database, you can probably have the ability to communicate directly with that particular person without having that
Well,
kind
then
of.
it's more than just a database. It's a social media platform.
Yeah, well, it could be a database on social media, but it could also be emails. I don't see why emails can't be anonymous as well.
Well, anyway, the person who wrote this, Ex-Muslim Asia, if you have more details or you have more thoughts after just hearing this, go ahead and put them in the comments again. Yeah. Anyway, so let's move on.
Well, I just want to add one little more detail about this, which really is something about safety and security, because unless the people there are vetted and you are sure who's there and who's communicating with them, it might sometimes be a little bit difficult to.
We have no way of vetting them. That would be an impossible task. And even if it was practical in the sense that you could do it once, it's definitely not practical when you're talking the volume.
Yeah. So the way that the current groups might actually be helpful in doing that a little bit more safely is to go there and see who is talking as an ex-Muslim, because sometimes if the person is not an ex-Muslim and just disguising as one and saying, oh, I'm one of these people, if you'd like to communicate with me, and then you end up with someone who is not who you think it is, it's possible to, through the natural interaction that this person has, you might be able to gather more sincere information about who they are. So it's a good idea. I'm not saying that I'm saying that I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that it probably, the execution needs to be done with care in order not to endanger people unnecessarily.
Okay, so does magic really exist? I don't believe in magic. However, I really think about the significant amount of stories I hear every day. So I'm switching my eyes now to the top about magic. Oh, she did magic to marry him, to make them divorce, to kill him, etc., etc. And they generally view it as an absolute truth. Like, how is that? How could not easily figure out? How could they not easily figure out that such a thing doesn't exist? I already started writing a post. What do you think about this? What would you say to this person?
So they're referring to a very common phenomenon. If you ever lived in a Muslim society, you would know that people create these incantations, amulets, special things that are more closer to voodoo magic than magic in the form of what you would get in Harry Potter, for example. And so you would take parts of the hair of the person and put it with special incantations, bury it somewhere, and then you would expect some kind of a result. Some of it, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, some of it can be traced directly to some to some Islamic roots. So this has a special name, Raqiyya, which is a practice that they do. And when it's presented in that way, they don't view it as magic, because actual magic is haram. You can't actually do magic. But the problem with this is that in Islam, they recognize that magic is real, but you're not supposed to do it. That's the problem with passing judgment on this idea. Now, from a psychological point of view, it really makes perfect sense. It's like that voodoo doll that you bring and you start pricking with pins in order to somehow affect the person that you want hurt, or to do whatever other ritual that would achieve the aim that you want. It's a kind of a wishful thinking that's probably going to generate some positive or negative feelings in the person who's doing them, but obviously this is something that has nothing to do with reality. You're just trying to express your inability to do something in real life, and instead you start in this kind of simulated or wishful thinking world where you end up doing things that you wish would happen but have nothing to do with reality.
What I wanted to say is not very specific. It's very general. Let me copy paste and start working on it here. And I might have made a glitch in my shit here. Is it? It is. Damn it. I messed up my coding. I have to fix it later. I don't have time now. What I tell people in this kind of scenario is it helps to understand the general case. Don't just look at one special case. It always seems like people are doing that. The general case is, well, strip the actual idea out of it and say, why do people believe anything in that category of, you know, what they're calling here like unreasonable or and I like to pick another special case that is like very clear in our current world. So I picked flat earthers. So I say here, it would help to understand the same phenomenon elsewhere, like the flat earthers. How could they believe the earth is flat when we have evidence refuting that concept? I say, well, for one thing, they don't know the role of evidence in truth seeking. They think evidence's role is to support theories. They don't know that that's impossible, to use evidence to support a theory. And the point is, evidence can only be used to refute a theory. Like if you were to well, here, let's use the example we keep giving about, what is it? All swans are white. So what was this, in 1100s in Europe? There's only white swans there. Somebody comes up with the theory, all swans are white. If he sees another white swan, and if you think of evidence as support, you have another piece of evidence supporting the theory all swans are white. If you find another million white swans and you're still thinking in that way, that's another million pieces of supporting evidence. Wow, that's so big. If you have one piece of refuting evidence, like a black swan, it ruins the theory. It didn't matter how many white swans you saw. Evidence does not do support. It only refutes. In the case of magic, and it, let's say a very specific thing. The example here was there was a divorce. Somebody did magic to make it happen. Okay. In that logic, I'm pretty sure they didn't consider all the possible theories. Now, to be technical, we can't consider all the possible theories. We don't have infinite minds to be able to do that. But we should try to get all of them as much as we can.
It's a confusion of, it's mainly what you're saying, it's a confusion of causation with correlation. That you make the ritual, something happens, oh, I'm the one who caused it. It's like when you say that, okay, we had some kind of an illness in the village, and someone went and slaughtered a goat, and all of a sudden their child was healed. So now everybody is going to be slaughtering goats in order to ensure that you get the same kind of result. So it's just a mischaracterization of what cause effect has happened in this case. And people believe it because it gives you the ability, okay, I know that there's something I can do I can personally do instead of feeling helpless in front of what seems to be something out of my hand. So, like I was saying at the beginning, it seems to be just an emphasis of wishful thinking. I wish that I can do something of this sort. So, what I go and do is I have some kind of a procedure, whether it works or not. I'm going to be doing it, and if you believe enough, if the thing is affecting you personally enough, like in the case of marriages and divorces, these are things that touch the person at a much deeper level than probably the issue of flat Earth. I mean, flat Earth people would start saying, "Yeah, I believe Earth is flat. Look at the evidence. We see that the Earth seems to be extending indefinitely, and so on." But it's not something that touches them personally. Like, oh, my ex-lover is now getting married, or someone I want them to be divorced, or something like that, on a personal level. So it's somewhat more effective in this case.
So you reminded me of another thing then. Two methods that I describe often. Method one, I want stuff and then I choose my beliefs to match my wants. The wishful thinking thing that you said. And the other method is I work to figure out what's true, then I edit my wants to be consistent with what I figured out to be true. The opposite of wishful thinking. It's like truthful thinking. I don't know.
Well, I would probably add a kind of a middle ground there, because you don't really have control over what you want. You can tweak that, you can modify it, but there is some basic things that you're not going to be able to.
You mean like you don't have 100% control, like the way they describe free will?
Yeah, which is something you know by now that I'm opposed to the idea in the
Well, I wasn't saying, when I said to edit my wants, I was not saying the fake free will concept.
Yeah,
I was saying the real free will concept.
But yeah, maybe what I wanted to say is that you could have this kind of negotiation between your wants and the real world, so that the end result is going to be a kind of a compromise that retains what you're trying to want in principle, or removing the things that are ruled out by whatever circumstances that you're really in, if you recognize those circumstances and internalize them properly and incorporate them in your worldview. And based on that, you end up with a situation that's more pragmatic, if you will. It does take into account the considerations of the real world, but it tries to maximize the amount of things that you can achieve that are in accordance with your wants. Now, if it turns out that you want something that's impossible, you're going to completely remove those wants from your field of view. Even if you still want them internally, you would know that they would be unachievable. But it's recognizing that this is, recognizing that this is the case. That's the hard step.
And to clarify, our wants themselves can be and are conflicting. So you might have a higher level want and a lower level want, and the lower level one contradicts the higher level one. And when you try to figure out the truth and you land somewhere, you might not be editing your major wants. You're just editing the lower level wants.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's enough for now. This is a bit long already, and we're already getting a lot of comments. I'm going to reply to some of them. I'm going to hit comment, or I'm going to send this now, and let's go through these. Keep up the good work, but the title needs more SEO on YouTube. You use r/Exmuslim. Why? I guess he's saying it's better to say Exmuslim subreddit rather than r/Exmuslim. But I do agree the name sucks. The titles I've been picking, I don't know a better title, and I don't know how to make it different every time. What am I going to do? Put ideas about the actual content that we're replying to? By the way, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, probably.
Hey, do you want to volunteer? Super Toaster, do you want to volunteer to come up with names for us? I'm kidding.
Yeah. I think when it comes to SEO, it's there are certain rules. I don't claim to know enough about that to actually do it proficiently. But yeah, a bad title is just going to
Well, not just on the SEO, but on the human mind.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody looks at the title, and first of all, if it's the same as all the other ones, that's just already looks boring, you know. Anyway, question is it is the brainwashing of the reality that they keep like being in the rain. They can't see beyond their reality or question. I don't know what they're saying. Do you know?
Is the brainwashing of the reality that keeps like being in the rain. Yeah, I'm guessing that it seems to be an emphasis that the mind is being constantly washed, that it doesn't have the ability to recover. It's like being under the rain. I guess that's what they mean.
Yeah, I can't tell. What keeps them in that cave? How do we ring a bell to make them come out of that cave? I like the cave concept because what was it? I've heard other people use it. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson uses it, and he talks about so for a very long time we lived in caves, and all the progress you made, not all, but basically the progress we made came after leaving the cave. We didn't want to leave the cave. That's the thinking here, because outside the cave is lions and you know what though, the cave thing confuses me because don't big bears live in caves too? Like I don't understand that.
I guess ancient people did actually have some problem with bears sometimes in caves. But if you want another connection with the caves, there's something a little bit more ancient, Plato's cave. And what you might be getting outside the cave. So he was talking about how the real world is a reflection of the world of the forms, as he calls it. And it's like seeing shadows on the walls of the cave when you're inside the cave. And until you actually get outside of the cave, you won't be able to see what's really causing these shadows, to see them in their full form.
That makes me think, and this sounds wrong. Tell me if this is an instance of what you're saying. That makes me think that we couldn't have known the earth is flat until we left the earth to see it. Is that accurate? But it's not true. We knew the earth was round before that.
Well, making a measurement on the earth, you might say that you haven't actually left the earth when you made certain measurements and made certain deductions, but in an indirect way,
metaphorically, it's like leaving the cave.
You're actually using, you're using tools that would require you to have information from outside, some global information that you're able.
So metaphorically, it's like leaving the cave. Even if we didn't leave the earth, we did things like leaving the cave that took us out of our. I heard it explained by someone else another way. If you're only using your observation senses as your way of determining the truth, well, that means you're not doing science. Science is a lot more than what you see with your eyes or your senses. First of all, it's a discussion with a whole bunch of other people and their senses. Okay, so if your method of determining the truth is what I see, that ignores what everyone else is seeing. Well, they could be seeing things that you're not seeing that would help you.
Yeah, but I would add to that, if you're not having any interaction, so it's a kind of an actual interaction with nature, you could rely on what you get from the senses, but the problem is that you would end up with wrong impressions about what reality is, like Aristotle did. He created.
I don't know what issue you're raising there, but are you raising the issue of our senses are actually imperfect? So
Our
we
senses
don't actually see reality for what it is. We're getting a slightly different version of it.
let me give a very simple example. Make an observation about how objects move. You give a push to something and it stops. Unless you actually start making experiments to see why it stops, to understand that friction is what's causing the stopping, your observation itself is not going to be enough to really determine what's happening.
Because of correlation is causation, which is what we just discussed.
Yeah. So one of the main issues that Aristotle had, especially with physics, is that he did not experiment.
It needs a psychology expert to say why can't they view the facts and say, this is strange. Ant or cow chapter. I didn't use psychology. I used epistemology. These are all epistemology issues.
I actually tend to agree with this comment, because the thing that's motivating these people to perpetuate that type of belief has a lot to do with wants and interests that have to do with their personal needs and things that are just not easily resolvable by saying, well, look, this kind of magic doesn't work. Well, I don't care. I want this person to get married. That's for example.
Well, I do agree with you that psychology can get in the way, but if you had really good epistemology, you can break through that.
Right. And so it would be getting to the point where that type of epistemology is so prevalent in society that saying magic is real would be something that's so frowned upon, it wouldn't fly. Individually looking at it from the depths of that kind of psychological struggle where you want something specific happening is really, really hard. So there has to be some kind of an environment that would enable you to see that this is a problem, that there are alternatives of looking at this and probing it and seeing why it doesn't work.
All right. Magic sometimes joins the dots. If you go here and here, the world is flat. How do you get them out of the cave? Magic sometimes joins the dots. Magic is like a very simple, dumbed down explanation that helps you connect dots, but there's no truth to it.
Well, magic here is not an explanation. Magic is a power. So that's the thing. If someone comes, because usually it's you go and buy the services of someone who has that knowledge. They would tell you do this and this, or I would do this and this for you, and it would achieve.
Yeah, I'm being very generous when I use the term explanation there.
Yeah,
I know that.
It's based on a purported explanation, a wrong explanation, but it's a kind of a special knowledge that this person has, and they're willing to give you that knowledge in the form of a service. So those people, they sell services. It's not only magic, incantations, and things of that sort. You can see there's a very, very popular type of commodity in many Muslim countries, like when you think about holy water in the Christian tradition. You have holy oil and holy water as well. They package that and they sell it as something that has had certain Quranic verses read on it. And it gains significantly more value. And so what does this oil do now? It's going to be doing this and this and this because of those Quranic verses that were read on it. So it's still a kind of a claim that this person specially has. And usually it's you cannot be any person who does the reading. It has to be someone who has that authority to do that. They're called raqi.
So connecting this to the God belief, there's a lot of people who the way they believe in God is something like I don't know. They look at the universe or whatever, and they say, "This, what made this? I don't have an answer. Therefore, God." I mean, that is an explanation. Again, I'm being generous by using the word explanation. It's a horrible explanation because, I mean, one way you can tell it's horrible is you can use it on anything. An explanation should only work on the one thing it's explaining.
Yeah. If you want to look at some of the religious explanations that are provided, some of them are so tautological that you cannot extract predictions. Like, for example, why did I suffer? Well, you have two different explanations. Either you were suffering because God was testing you, or you were suffering because God was punishing you. Either way, you don't actually get an explanation of why you were suffering.
And another way to say this is there's no potential or possible fact that could refute the explanation.
Yeah. But at the same time, that's one type of religious explanation. Another type is one that is testable. So even though it might sound a little bit weird, but the existence of God can be treated as a scientific hypothesis, in the sense that it has certain predictions that you can go and test and basically refute using the scientific method. And that's something that many people have promoted. If you look at Victor Stenger, rather, he was an American astronomer, but also a very prominent atheist who, to some extent, participated in the new atheism. He has a lot of works that deal exactly with this kind of idea.
I heard of something, I don't know if this is related. A scientist was like, okay, let's go ahead and test out this prayer thing. And they took two groups. One was praying for some stuff. The other one wasn't praying. And the results came out the same, meaning prayer didn't help.
Yeah, there is. I can't now bring it off the top of my head, but there is a famous prayers study that basically does that. And in fact, what they found was the reverse. So you had several.
Made it worse. I was gonna say that possibility, but I didn't.
Well, what happened was that they went to I think people undergoing heart surgery or something like that, and they said to some group, "We're going to have someone pray for you." Another group, they didn't say, but they had someone pray for them. Another group, they didn't have someone pray for them at all. So for the people who were told that we're going to be praying for them, there was a kind of an anxiety performance that raised their anxiety and made the surgery go badly, because we told you that you're going to have someone pray for you. This means that there was a kind of a sense of anticipation that because of that, I need to make things work in
Man, that's a really fucked up placebo.
Yeah, that wasn't a placebo here, but probably it's a kind of a feedback loop that ended up having that effect. But there were other groups, and that particular study showed that whether someone was praying for you or not, it really had no effect. They tried, well, maybe this is a Christian prayer. Maybe we can have someone, I don't know, come up with a Buddhist prayer or whatever. So it's...
that's a repetition. Oh, they want us to make thumbnails too. Dude, that's a lot of work. I don't have the time for that. I would have to get volunteers doing that, or get funding, donations, so that I can hire somebody for that.
Yeah, down the road, probably that's a good idea.
What is the chapter of the end? The Quran chapter, I guess.
Yeah, I'm guessing that that's when the ant was talking to Solomon, "Don't step on us," and there's some yeah. So one of the supposed miracles in that particular chapter is that it's a false miracle supposedly, but it's something that's very, very popular amongst Muslims, saying that in this chapter the word that is used to crush the ants can be interpreted as if you were crushing glass. And lo and behold, science has verified that ants were made of glass, which is not true. But that's something that many people promote.
Okay. All right. What the fuck's going
Ants that talk, but also that can be crushed in a way that is verifiable as made of glass. So it's a fun chapter.
Super Toaster says, I think it is interesting how people will feel fear of questioning or of a question that they have about Islam, and they will go to someone that will give them the answer they want to hear. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's this happened recently, and I give this answer all the time. People ask, why? What was the particular one recently? Why do Muslims believe? I don't remember what it is. Some nonsense thing. How could they believe this crazy thing? Or how could they? What is it? Criticize. That's what it is. Something like we ex-Muslims say something wrong in Islam, and they say no, that's not true. And they're asking, why are these people lying for Islam? Well, it's a very simple thing, and this is the psychology thing from before. They want to protect their ideas. First of all, that's the mistake to begin with, wanting to protect your ideas. And then they do something that helps them protect their ideas by lying about the thing so they don't have to change their mind about Islam. And why do they even want to do that? Well, that helps them feel better a little bit right now.
There is actually a category of lying in Islam that's not even permissible. It's also considered to be encouraged if you feel that it satisfies or fulfills the purpose of the propagation of Islam. So yeah, it's like any kind of any form of propaganda. If you look at it deep down, it's something that not only allows lying, but also that relies on lying, because it, as a form of deception, you end up with a strong way of luring people into this and ending up with more followers. Let me say just one little anecdote about this. I'm not sure if it's actually real or not. It's something that I heard a few times about one such lie. So someone was inviting a person to become a Muslim, and the other person said, I can't join Islam. I have to keep drinking alcohol. It's I can't do that. So the other person said, you can drink as much as you want. Once they became a Muslim and they discovered that this is not true, well, I need to leave now. Well, too bad. It's too late. You can't leave right now, because if you want to leave, you're going to be losing your head. So it's a kind of a deception. Might be a little bit more subtle than how I told it, but it does rely on lying in order to have you just commit that step. And then after that, it's not going to be possible.
It's the wishful thinking again. They want it to be the case,
yeah,
so they can feel better.
Yeah, but the lies can be far more subtle and far more insidious. Just giving you a kind of a lie and just using it in a kind of a devious way.
So Super Toaster says, please learn Udemy Udemy is the learning course thing that I know about. I've used it before for other things, and I actually wanted to use it for. I was planning on using it for republishing our "How to De-Indoctrinate Myself" series.
Yeah. So Udemy and Coursera, they offer this kind of.
Yeah. And then he says that he would pay for it. And yeah, I haven't done anything like that yet. I mean, I don't know when I would do that. For one thing, I actually think there's some sizable holes with that series we made, or maybe one sizable hole. So I think we would need to fix it by doing another episode. But then it kind of breaks the whole thing, because the entire time we're talking about what we're talking about later, and then it's broken because it's not talking about this last episode we haven't
Yeah,
done.
well, we talked about this at the very beginning, that what we're trying to do is a kind of an iterative process where we're not trying or claiming to present the truth. We're trying to explore, to research. This means that.
Well, the point is, I think in its current state, it's not good enough to roll out a Udemy, even after editing. I think it would need to be like reshot.
Oh yeah. Many of the things that we produce, because of the informal nature of what we're doing, if you want to do it for Udemy, it needs significantly more structure and things.
And then I'm afraid if we try to reshoot things, we would do that same thing of we wouldn't talk about the important things again that we already talked about, because in our subconsciously, well, we already talked about it. You don't raise the issue again, and then it breaks.
It's not that. A course is a different format. I'm talking from experience. When you're trying to teach,
meaning you're planning like you're scripting all of it.
Not scripting, but you're planning much more meticulously and knowing basically what you're going to be.
I mean, that's what I did.
To much more detail than what.
More detail, dude. I had so many bullet points. More detail than what I did? Are you sure?
Yeah, but because here's the thing. When we talk very often, we include so many different tangents, and
it's easy to cut them out, I think. But anyway.
Yeah, possibly. But that's what I'm saying. If you're going to be doing a course, it has to be really focused.
But the way we did it, or I mean the general method, by not scripting all of it, it allows us to talk about things we didn't plan for, which actually make it way better.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, it's not that you cannot do that, but you would have to do it far less if this would be a course.
So Super Toaster says, no, the cave is the brainwashing. So we misunderstood what he was saying.
Well,
the cave is the brainwashing.
That seems to be a compounded metaphor here. So we're talking about two different things.
And then he says rain is brainwashing. Oh, in your other example, or his example.
Okay.
Or her. I don't know if it's a he or her. Or a they, or whatever else.
Okay. Well,
ancient Greeks used a deep well and a solar eclipse to use math to prove it was round. The Earth is round. Yeah, a deep well and a solar eclipse. I don't know the details. You know of some of this, don't you?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit. I had a slightly different version of this, but yeah, basically you can measure things, or they did measure things using shadows and different locations of the person making the measurement on Earth, and they were able to come up with the actual radius of the planet. Not only did they prove that it was round, they came up with the radius, and it's still valid to within a few percent compared to the actual measurements. So it's not impossible. You don't have to go to outer space to say, oh, look, it's round. You can actually also do measurements, and it's not only that. So it's
Ragad, my mom says, finally Usama is back. I don't know what she's talking about. When did you leave? When were you gone?
Well, first of all, I haven't actually been interacting much with Facebook recently, so maybe that's what she's referring to. But yeah, it's nice to hear from you.
All right, let's go to the next post. What time is it? 45:01. All right, so this next one, I gotta do this. What is it? Here we go. Has anyone benefited from therapy? Now, I remember reading this, but it's deleted now, and that sucks, by the way. But I wonder if it's worth replying, even though we only have the title. There's only 3 comments. I've had therapy and I loved it. Have you had therapy?
I did have therapy. Probably I should have stayed more, but definitely I extracted some benefit from it. It wasn't related to being an ex-Muslim. It was completely different. But therapy and self-therapy, which can be in the form of journaling or just self-reflection, is definitely something that I think everybody should be doing, regardless of whether they feel that they're in need of it or not. Just knowing yourself at a level that's deeper than everyday experience is so beneficial. It has so many different benefits on so many different levels.
So I just kind of want to say one thing here, real simple to them. We've both had therapy and we loved it. It wasn't related to religion, and that there are bad therapists and there are good therapists that don't fit you. You got to find a good therapist that fits you.
Yeah, I think that's probably a point that people may just underestimate the importance of, because in the case of therapy, you're not only talking about someone being skilled at doing what they're doing. You can go to whatever university and get a degree in psychotherapy or any form of that practice, but the actual person practicing this, they would accumulate different experiences. They would have different perspectives from other therapists. You might not have the first person fit your needs, your personality, and your disposition. So it's sometimes you might want
or
to
the specific method that they're using. There's various methods of therapy, and maybe somebody is like averse to a particular method. So
yeah. There are certain standard methods that they use, but there are also other methods that depend on different philosophical and I wouldn't say medical, but mainly philosophical conceptions of what works.
So I just add one last question. Would you like advice on how to do this? Because we have advice on that. That's what one of the episodes of how to de-indoctrinate myself. So if they say yes, then I'll reply with that post and the videos.
Yeah, sounds like
so
a plan.
Let me send that and go to the next one. Actually, let's look at.
Did it actually take it, even though the post was deleted? Does it allow you to comment?
Yeah, and I don't know if they get a notification though.
Okay.
I don't know how that works. I've never deleted anything, so I've never been able to test that. Trig the Boss says, Uniting the Cults, keep up the great work. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Ragad says, today when a Muslim criticized the evolution process, so when I brought a very logical proof, he brought me a Quran verse saying that humans were made from clay. What do you want to say about that?
Well, the problem is, if you go and look at the composition of clay, you would see that it has a lot of compounds that have silicon mainly, which is a completely different composition from the human body. So if you're just looking at this from a
mainly carbon is the point, right?
Yeah, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen.
Well, I mean, the basic building block of biology of organisms, from what I remember in school, is
Yeah.
molecules that it's a chain of carbons.
Yeah.
Not silicon. I don't know that there's any silicon in our bodies. Maybe there is. I have no idea.
There is. I mean, you can find trace elements, trace values or trace amounts of all elements. It's just that silicon by itself, if you're just including it in your body without needing it, that's actually something that's poisonous, like any other thing. So so if you're just looking at the composition, you have to actually explain how is it that we're made out of clay if we don't have the same composition. Maybe a way.
I guarantee you that the person who said this does not know what clay is made of and doesn't know what humans are made of.
Yeah, but I would actually use this in a slightly different way. I would say, well, it might be that what your omnipotent, omniscient God meant was that initial life could have started in an environment that had clay, because in that case you would have a place where those reactions, those primordial reactions, could take place. So in a way, you would be talking about abiogenesis as something that started in clay but not is made out of clay, and that would eventually lead to evolution. So this could be turned against the original idea. Instead of saying, well, it's a different composition. No, it could be that clay is a possible environment. And yes, ancient environments did have that type of aspect. So that's a candidate for where life might have started. But it's the origin of life. That's not evolution, because these are two different things that very often get mixed in people's minds.
Say that a little bit more. The origin of life is not evolution. What do you mean?
Okay, so evolution works by natural selection. This means that in order for evolution to work, you have to start with an already well-formed species.
And I think I know what you're saying. You're saying what that you're talking about, the starting point.
Yes.
That led to evolution, but that starting point it doesn't make sense to call that evolution.
Yes, there is still a kind of a natural selection that can be implemented on molecules, and this is something that people do. But that still doesn't give you the actual initial conditions for life and how.
Well, because it's not. Well, I think what you're describing is molecules that replicate themselves, but it's not at the stage of it is a cell that is replicating itself. It is just molecules that replicate.
But
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the process of replication that started at the very beginning with molecules before RNA and DNA, before this paradigm actually was well established as the way of doing it, as a kind of a reaction, there's going to be an energy expense, like in the case of life. And so you can think about resources, you can think about competing reactions that might overwhelm other reactions and therefore become more prevalent. So natural selection in this way could be a way to favor certain reactions over others. But that by itself does not explain the kind of molecules that we do have. It's one aspect of it.
You're talking about RNA and DNA.
Yeah. But the main point is that people say, well, how did life start? Because in the religious conception, what they think about is, well, God said the word, and whatever life came out of nothing, ex nihilo. And that's why
species, like a multicellular organism,
just
appeared.
Yeah, and that's why they don't make that distinction between the origin of life as a distinct problem from evolution, because there is no process in their mind. You just have the species just popping out of nothing.
Yeah. When what's the guy's name that did evolution? Darwin. When Darwin came up with his theory, he didn't describe it as this is the origin of life. He described it as this is how species come from other species.
Yeah, he did make
It
some.
didn't say this is how the first species came.
Yeah, well, two different pieces of information he didn't know. The first one is the mechanism of
The
a
genes.
mutation and the genes, and the second one is that he did make certain speculations about the origin of life, but it wasn't essential for his theory to begin with. That's not what he was talking about.
He did put a title of The Origin of Species, right?
Yeah, the origin of species.
Yeah. But to me, that title and the whole theory is just saying, how does one species come from another? It's not
Yeah.
saying what the fuck happened in the beginning.
Yeah. So whether it's his later work, The Descent of Man, or The Origin of Species, he's not talking about the origin of life. He does not touch on that. He does not indulge.
I just want to add one little factoid to this story for people to understand, the people that are on the other side of this. I think it helps to understand like the shared genes we have. So between humans and chimpanzee, 98.5% of our genes are the same.
Yeah.
The 1.5% that humans have different than chimpanzees is what makes us, we are pretty significantly different than them, but in another way, we're almost the same.
Yeah.
If you look at another species, I think I should look it up though before I say false information, but like let's say flowers. How much genes do flowers share with humans? And I think it makes sense for someone to take a guess first and then see the real number, make a hypothesis. If I was to make a guess, I would have said something like, we're so different than them, 1%. I'm looking at an estimate here, 20 to 60%. And if you look at it a little bit deeper, you should see that makes sense. A flower is a bunch of cells. We're a bunch of cells. If you look at a flower cell and a human cell, almost all of it's the same.
Yeah. There is.
If you look at a liver cell in a human and a skin cell in a human, it's almost the same.
Well, since you brought up the flower example, there is a quote. I think Sagan didn't really say it that way, but it's attributed to him when he was talking about people who would say, well, we had an encounter with alien beings from another planet, and we ended up being sexually assaulted by them. And some people say, yeah, we actually mated with them. And he was saying you have a better chance of, well, this is attributed to him. He didn't probably say it that way. You have a better chance of mating with a petunia than mating with an alien from a different planet.
Mating and making a baby, you mean? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So it's the shared basis that we have with all living things on the planet is far more than you would have with anything that would have evolved somewhere else.
Unless the way it started here was a very early thing came on a rock from another place.
Yeah, that's
and then in that case we have the same origin point, and then maybe we have this like very similar DNA, let's say.
Right, but so this idea, this panspermia idea, does have merit, and we have certain things that we received from Mars. So we have rocks after collisions that happened with Mars. You get certain ejecta that go in outside, and we do have that. The problem is that if this happened very early on, you might not be able to recognize what form of life you're looking at. But on the other hand, people are still looking on Earth to see if we could possibly have had more than one origin of life on Earth. In that case,
yeah. We don't even know that yet. Yes.
Yeah. Because in that case, you might be looking for the characteristics of what we define as life based on the branch that we see. And therefore, if you were presented with a sample from that other life that is actually living with us on the same planet, you might not be able to recognize it. I think that's going to be a really, really hard thing for it to survive. It's probably, if it's there, it's going to be surviving in a very, very primitive form. it's not going to be like, oh, we have this kind of animal.
Yeah, it's
that
not likely that if there was two origin points, it's not likely that. Well, let me say it like this: that one origin point produced humans, and another one produced humans or almost humans.
Yeah.
It's more likely that one made everything on Earth, and the other one stalled.
Yeah.
And stayed single cellular.
Yeah.
Or one origin point.
Yeah, some radical difference that would not would have that.
It would make sense there was multiple, because the branch that led to us, the chemical branch that led to us, like you said, there was competing chemical reactions, and maybe another one could have led to life but didn't, because the other one beat it.
Yeah, so for example, there are reasons why you might use to substitute carbon with silicon, which is that claim that we were talking about earlier with clay.
They're in the same column on the periodic table,
exactly.
And that's why.
Yeah, so in principle, you could have a rich chemistry for silicon the same way that you have for carbon. There are reasons why this is not going to be as successful, but in principle, that you could have a silicon-based life somewhere else, and in that case, you would have a completely different type of genetics, even if the chemistry is very similar.
I remember, this is a long time ago, I remember seeing something talking about people theorizing that in the past, we had H2S instead of H2O. Does that make any sense? And the point is, H2S being a lot, and then organisms working on the H2S instead of H2O.
Well, you have a lot of living things near volcano vents that do utilize sulfur as a source of energy. They don't even use sunlight in any way. They don't have any plant-based metabolism or anything of the sort. So we do have that form of life still living on Earth, and it's probably related to a very, very ancient form that we might be able to trace our lineage to. I'm not sure if that's what you mean, but there is
Again, it was so long ago, I don't remember any details. I wonder if half of what I just said was wrong too. It's so vague in my memory, Trig the Boss says, there is extensive scientific evidence of people benefiting from traditional talk therapy / CBT. And yes, I wasn't shitting on CBT. I was saying maybe there's a person that is averse to it, and so other methods would work better with that person.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not even claiming that I know what CBT is. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Knowing the name doesn't mean you know what it is. Anyway. Let's go to the next post. Let's see. Hi, I don't know if this is the right place to seek help and advice, but, and I vaguely remember replying to this. Let me scroll real quick and see if I had a reply. There it is. Okay. Here, let's just review what I said. I'm going to read it. So, hello, I was raised in a very devout family who followed Islam strictly. Myself, on the other hand, was never truly believing in this since I was a child. It didn't fit with my logic. I'd been having chronic nightmares and sleep paralysis. Whenever I told my parents, my grandparents told me, it's jinn. And they're saying they're having panic attacks when they hear like adhan and stuff. They live close to a mosque. After many years, I'm still traumatized by this stupid religion. I can't stand Arabic things. I can't stand seeing people wearing hijab and etc. I can't stand calls to prayer or being close to mosques. I can't stand being close to anything or anyone which is somehow related to Islam. I have severe panic attacks whenever I am, and I can't be close to friends with Muslim people. It just doesn't fit me. I believe in here there are people in this sub. There are people who are traumatized from this religion like me. So I'm curious, how did you get over it, and how did you lessen the effects of the panic attacks? Thank you. So I said, depends on what you're panicking about. I noticed it wasn't very clear in what they said. So what are you panicking about? Do you have any clues? I don't know. Whenever I see anything related to Islam. So I say, okay, what thought comes to mind at the moment that you see those things? And I went ahead and gave an idea to try to shortcut things. I said, most people say stuff like this. I think, quote, what if Islam is true and then I go to hell? So I say, how about you? Oh, I thought they replied. Maybe they didn't. Maybe I'm confusing with another post. I'm waiting.
It feels like there was a reply on the previous comment that you made that you didn't look at.
No, this is it.
No, not that one. The previous one.
The previous post.
Yeah, if you go back.
Like here.
No, it was the same post. There seems to have been something that you didn't expand. Yeah,
This?
more replies, or is
that just goes to this?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so they didn't reply. Oops. Well, it's a good try. Trying to get them to say something about what they're panicking about. And so let me go to the next one then. 106.12. Okay, this is a good one. Let me write something down real quick. Is it on the screen already? All right. So I'm Muslim, but I really need some help, guys. So I don't know what subreddit is to say this in, but know damn well if I said this is a Muslim one, they'd be like, it's because your iman is weak. Or some dumb shit like that.
Which, based on...
They're worried how we're going to reply to them.
Right. So it seems that that since this person is expecting to have some reply from Muslims that would say, "Oh, you just have to work a little bit harder on your faith. That way, you're going to get rid of these thoughts." It seems that these thoughts are there, and this person seems to be on the verge of leaving the religion. So, even though she is classifying herself as a Muslim, it seems that there's enough doubts that she's almost on the verge.
So let's continue. I'm 15 years old, hijabi Sudanese girl who lives in UAE. I actually feel really embarrassed about being a hijabi and being Sudanese. The nationality part is because, like, the Emirati boys in my class, yeah, there's a lot of racism. I mean, I guess there's racism everywhere, but there's plenty in the Arab world against Sudanese or anyone who's not Arab, right?
Yeah,
within Arab, right? There's even like certain cities, right? Would Aleppo people make fun of Hamsi people or what?
Yeah, but actual people from Africa, they very often get a lot of negative things. Still, I would say it's like they make fun of them instead of oppress them in the same way that you would expect people who are a second-class citizen would be treated. But it's still something that's very traumatic, and I've personally seen how these people get treated this way. In fact, very often, instead of saying, "Oh, this is a black-skinned person," what they would say, "Oh, he's just a slave." That's the term.
Yeah, in Arabic, the word that they use for black people is what is it? What's
Abid.
the word? Abid, which means slave.
Yeah.
Now here's what's interesting. I remember thinking that for years and years and years, thinking it's insane. But on the other side of it, they don't even think the word slave is a bad thing because they say slave of Allah.
Yeah. But here's the thing: because of the fact that in most of these societies, there wasn't enough money to own slaves in most recent memory, they don't actually have a conception of what a slave is. we talk about the abolition of slavery in the 20th century, and everything became rosy. But I think that one of the main reasons is that people don't have enough money to own slaves, except in those places where it makes financial sense. So,
Dude, I'm sorry to interrupt. I got to tell you, there's a gas station in my city. I don't know if it's still there or if it's still the same name. And I'm going by this gas station. I look at the sign and it says ABD, Abid. And it's in an area that is like has a lot of black people. That's fucked up. Isn't that fucked up?
I don't know. It might be just an acronym for something, is it?
I could have went inside and find out who the owner is. If it's an Arab owner, what would you say then?
Well, they do use that, like you said at the beginning, because Abdullah, all sorts of other other attributes of Allah. So it's something that's very common. You can see someone who has this name.
That's
Abdullah,
what gives them plausible deniability to be racist.
Yeah, but I think this is not the main reason why they view that. It's definitely something that's lingering from the time where slaves were owned, and so you would say, "Oh yeah, what color is that person's skin?" You wouldn't say that his skin color. You would say he's Abid.
By the way, you raise an issue that I think is interesting. To call a people by their skin color is really weird. I think it's really weird.
Yeah,
especially since the colors we're using aren't their actual color. Black people are not black. Actually, there are some extremely black. Maybe you could say their skin is black, but almost all of the other people that we also call black, their skin is not black. You could say dark brown, maybe.
Yeah.
And then white people, not really white. Why use these colors? I don't get it. I wonder who fucking started this naming people by the color of their skin.
Probably Europeans, because of the big contrast that they saw. But still, it's Arabs are not exactly white, but at the same time, they you would hear the word Abd Aswad, a black slave.
I do hear them say Sud, as in black, the blacks.
Yeah, which is actually
I wonder if that's more of a new term rather than an old one.
Well, the term Sudan, where the person talking here is from, derives the name exactly from that. It's the country of blacks, Sudan.
Oh shit! I didn't know that. Sudan. Holy crap! I didn't know that. Wait a minute. Who named the country? Themselves?
I don't know.
That sounds like they wouldn't be naming themselves that way.
Why not? If they have a certain pride in their identity, and if you go back to a certain time where Sudan actually had pharaohs that ruled Egypt, they were proud of their identity. Although at the time, up until relatively recently, I think they would not use that term. They would use the term Nubian.
All right, let's continue.
But I might be mixing up the things, and I might be wrong with the namings and the histories. But
I really hate wearing the hijab for thousands of reasons. This country has a lot of non-Emirates and non-Muslims. How do you say Emirates? Like, what's the Arabic word? How do you say that plural?
That I think the word that they usually use, Emiratis, and in Arabic you say Emirati.
Emirati. And one person?
Still Emirati. The plural would be Emiratiyin.
That's what it is. Emiratiyin. So knowing that these cool non-Muslims can see me being ugly and wearing a hijab makes me really embarrassed. The hijab makes me look ugly as hell, makes me feel trapped, and just makes me feel really horrible. It makes me feel like an ugly, nasty black Slav. So she has internalized racism.
Yeah, I think it's really sad what's going on here on a personal level, and it seems that she's going through this suffering on by herself. Because um, going to her family and speaking about that, it's probably not going to have her get much support from the family. They're not going to sympathize with what she's saying. And going to the other side, if she's just presenting herself as a Muslim wearing the hijab with the way that she's describing her appearance, um, she has to face that kind of ridicule. So she's like stuck in a situation where you can't move either way, and going without hijab probably is going to improve her situation significantly, but it's going to be
Yeah,
hard.
it depends on a lot of factors. Also, if you're African, you probably get what I mean. Because of the hijab, my hair gets really dry and ugly. It's already bad and all, but the hijab makes it 1,000 times worse. My, what is that? 4B?
I'm not sure. Probably
My hair is really stubborn and it's really hard to keep it tied most of the time, but I have to because of the hijab. I've always thought of non-Muslims as more than Muslims, like they're better than Muslims. They're so much cooler than Muslims, in my opinion. So knowing that these pretty girls with nice hair can see me and probably think I'm ugly and gross makes me feel sad. Also, like, it's really hot in this country. I want to lose weight and I used to go on walks, but it's extremely hot. During the day, it can go up to 50 degrees Celsius, and the night, the lowest it'll go to is 32 degrees. So since I'm a hijabi, I have to cover up, right? But it's so hot that it actually pisses me off. I'm seeing men out there being able to wear shorts just makes me even more mad. It's so unfair. Why do I have to cover up and not them? I have to sweat under my long-sleeved, thick hoodie in this hot weather while these men can walk around in tank tops and shorts and not face any punishment. It's so not fair. It's not my fault that I was born a woman. Why do I have to go through this while men have it easy? This is going to be the last part of my rant, or whatever this is. These days, I've been doubting my religion. Some parts of it don't really make sense and don't align with each other and things that scientifically happened. I don't know what to do or what to believe. It makes me really mad that this is all supposed to be a test according to Islam. Why is it a test to believe or not to believe without enough evidence too? Why do we have to do this? Can't we just live? And I hate it whenever people say there is evidence and then they start talking about something that happened thousands of years ago. Like, bro, I'm not a time traveler. I didn't see any of that. The only written evidence is in the Quran. But is it true? How can you believe evidence that's only proven by the religion and by its book? Anyways, yeah, sorry this was so long. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, bro. Sorry if you guys don't want a Muslim on here. I just really want some advice from you guys, because I don't want people telling me that this is just a test or that my iman is weak. Update. You want to hear the update, or should we reply first?
Well, let's go with the update, because obviously this seems to be relevant.
I think I'll leave the religion in the near future, but I'll do some research on all of this stuff first. Like, I've watched a couple of videos till now that make me pretty sure that God isn't real, and neither is heaven or hell. It's all just stuff created by near ancient humans who were trying to make sense of things they didn't understand about life. Makes sense, honestly. I can't really find any evidence on Islam that isn't just in the Quran, so I'll take it that there isn't any evidence at all outside of Islam itself. I won't tell anyone yet because I'm kind of scared of how they'll react. But yeah, I'm the hijabi. I'll keep it about the hijab. I'll keep it on for now. Maybe I'll take it off when I'm not around my family. Love you guys. You're all really nice.
Yeah, I think that I think that last bit of going without the hijab, without in places where she can, I think that should improve her general well-being probably significantly. So if she can do it,
I started with something even more basic. You're welcome here.
Yeah.
People who are unwelcome are people who act like jerks, whether they are Muslims, ex-Muslims, or never Muslims. I'll reply again in a few days. She replied, thank you. And then because I had read some of the comments and her replies, she said more information.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something about, afterlife, hell, I'm scared. And I don't know if she used the word possible or not, but this is the word I try to use now. I've changed this in the past month. So I say, would you like to learn why afterlife is not possible? And then I always add, I'm asking because believing it's possible is one of the things propping up your fear of hell. And she replied, okay, somebody else replied, but she replied, yes, please. And then I wrote a post explaining why afterlife is not possible and my advice more generally on how to stop fearing hell. And so this post, I think, is even better than the how to de-indoctrinate myself. Oh, I didn't show it. Here we go. There it is. Fear of hell, what's causing it, and how to stop fearing hell. I put 4 categories here, and I say, I put this in front. If you still have a fear of hell, there are 4 things that could be causing it. You might have more than one. Epistemology, that's something we did talk about in our how to de-indoctrinate myself. This one, we forgot to talk about. And we care about physics. We're so stupid.
Didn't we actually? I think we
did. If we did, it wasn't its own topic. It might have been discussed tiny bit in the middle of some other bigger topic. I think it should have got its own video, its own part.
Let me say something about this because I think we probably said something about something of the sort before. One of the claims that is made in the Quran, and in fact, so if you look at the opponents of the Quran, they seem to be believing in Allah. They're not saying that Allah doesn't exist. What they deny, one of the things that they deny is resurrection. And this idea of resurrection involves bringing up the body as it is, as a physical body, and then infusing it with the soul once again. And the Quran claims, well, look at how God brought up you from nothing. He can redo it again. The problem with this is that at the time, people might view this as, yeah, well, we have no idea how we came in the first place. So it could be this kind of magic where God says, bring that person up, and somehow they form in, they become alive. The problem with this is that you don't form out of nothing. You form inside your mother's womb. So you have to have a sperm, you have to have an ovum. So it's not that you form out of nothing. And then when you die, the problem there is that you don't have that womb anymore, and that all the information that was in your body is going to completely disintegrate, so that the entropy that represents your existence is going to increase significantly, so that the process that formed you in the first place is a completely different thing from the claim that says, oh, you're going to be raised from the graves, and you're going to walk as if you were the same person before you died. That on its own, just looking at the entropy of achieving that, going in the opposite direction of the increase of the entropy, makes it unsensible.
I'm guessing most of the people listening won't know what you mean by entropy. You want to give a little quick rundown, Mr. Professor?
Because this is not our topic. It's just, in a word, it's a measure of the increase of disorder in the system. So if you have an ordered system, you're going to have a certain amount of information. You increase the disorder, going back to the ordering is going to be so hard. It's like when you break
extremely disordered, meaning high entropy, would be like a beach that has been untouched by humans. All the sand and all the stuff that's there.
Yeah, there's a very, very good example to that. You have a cup that has coffee and milk. Coffee and milk, when they're separate, they have low entropy. Mix them together, you have very high entropy. Extracting the milk from the coffee again is going to be an extremely hard process because you have to do it molecule by molecule, essentially.
And we don't do that. We go get some more coffee and some more milk.
Exactly. So when you're dead in the ground, you're basically in that same situation of high entropy. The information that made you up, that makes up your brain, who you are, is going to be completely dissolved. Part of it is going.
Here's another thing to add, I guess. The human body, and this is all life, obviously, we actually have to expend energy. Now, in order to expend energy, we have to get energy from our environment, put it in us, use it to cause more order. Because what's happening, the natural state without that is more disorder, meaning our body is falling apart. The only way it stays not falling apart is your body has to keep trying to put it together. So for DNA, and this is actually part of what causes evolution. The environment fucks with our DNA and makes mutations. Okay, that is towards more disorder. But then your DNA mechanisms has a way of fixing those errors. And then almost all of them get fixed. A few are not fixed. That's what causes new genes.
And that's what causes cancer to begin with also.
Yes, that's true too. That's a very interesting dynamic. The very thing that that we need to do something in our life, if you have more of it, causes more cancer. It's to do with telomeres.
Yeah. Well, I think it's worth talking about this in a kind of a separate video, but I feel that we already talked about it at some point. But right now, I don't remember. We talked about.
Well, let me say the two things here, and I want you to help me clarify my thinking on this. So I put this as one category: physics and biology. You think the afterlife is possible, but it's not. It contradicts what we know about nature. For afterlife to exist, that means people have a soul that exists even after the body dies. But how does the soul operate? What is the energy source? And the reason I'm asking about the energy source is that's how life works. Like, we have to have an energy source.
Yeah, you can look at
every organ in your body has to have energy to do its stuff. Every cell.
You can actually verify this kind of thing very easily in terms of what you might call soul by, first of all, looking at the energy consumption of the brain. The brain is a very energy hungry organ. Now, take that organ and cause some damage to it. What happens is that you're going to be damaging your personality. And so if you're claiming that the soul can exist separate from the body, how is it that you were able to damage the soul by damaging the brain?
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. So I continue saying, well, the people who believe in the soul concept don't think about these things. And one thing to recognize is the concept of soul was created by humans a long time ago, before we knew any physics or biology, before anyone thought of an energy source or an organ.
Yeah, the soul basically played the same role as the God of the gaps. When you don't know something about how life operates, you just stick it to the soul. The soul is the one that's responsible for this. And it wasn't only lay people who thought about this. Most educated people up until maybe a few hundred years ago would start thinking about the soul as the driving source of life. They would say that you have some kind of there's a French term for it, élan vital, that a force of life that exists that's related to life, that's somehow some kind of a mysterious thing that's there, which some people might classify as the soul. Now we know that this is not the case.
So the second point that I say here, so that first point was physics. Where's the energy source? The second point is biology. So I say everything a human does requires an organ to do it. For the mind, it's the brain. Which organ is responsible for the soul? Again, the people who believe in the soul concept don't think about these things. It's all mythology, superstition. So I recommend learning some physics and biology. That's what I say here. This we did talk about punishment, but I think it needs like more detail. I noticed a lot of people use the argument they're not against punishment, and they don't question that part of it. What they're against is, okay, hell is eternal hell, so eternal punishment, infinite punishment for a finite crime.
Yeah,
that's not fair. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you cannot do any kind of crime, no matter what it is, that deserves an infinite punishment, no matter what it is.
But I go further and say punishment itself is wrong. And either way, though, if you go my route of punishment is wrong, or the other route of what's the words they use in U.S. law, the punishment has to be like the same level of the crime and not more.
Yeah.
Do you know the phrase?
No, but this is a very, very common principle in Islam. You also have the same idea.
Really?
That the punishment has to be of the same type as the same type. It doesn't talk, I think, about the
severity.
Degree. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure right now, but it says it uses the term min jins al jarima, the same type.
But that means human punishment to humans.
Yeah, eternal
because
punishment.
God's going against that. He didn't say, I'm going to make a hell and make this world for you that is exactly the world you were in, and I'm going to punish you in the way. You know what I mean? It's like if the crime you did was poke out somebody's eye, then in hell you get your eye poked out. That would be a comparable punishment. Why is it hell forever?
But in that case, why would you need eternity for it? You can just
exactly. Yeah. The eternity part. But yeah, the flames, like, and rebuilding your flesh and then burning it again. What the fuck is that?
It seems that someone who was really with so much pent up emotions and frustrations and a very vivid imagination about what he would do to his opponents, that came up with these ideas. And not only in the Quran, you have also pictures of that sort in other scriptures. The lake of sulfur that the Christians believe in, and all sorts of things.
All right, I don't know if that we have any more. I'm gonna check real quick. Yeah, there's no more. That was it. Okay, we're almost out of time anyway. Let's and I gotta go pee, so let's hurry up. Let's do the poll question. Let's see if anyone answered it. Oh, by the way, last week's poll question, we got a lot more results. And then it ended up being a lot better. I remember it was 33 to 67. 33 was, let me look it up. I don't even want to try to remember. Hold on one second.
How many people in total? And was that after?
Oh, yeah, let me look at that. How many people in total? Oh, hold on. Where does it say that? Here we go. 44 votes now. 14% said, yes, I'm willing to use force, including punishing my kids if they became a Muslim. And 86% said no. So the results got better. Okay, so here's the other one.
Well, hold on. When was that closed, or did you not close?
There's no closing. I didn't see a closing thing.
Oh, people, so it's an ongoing thing.
It's ongoing, it looks like.
Okay. I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's going to keep accumulating answers, and if it actually gives you does it give you a time progression of how this looks like? Just a number. That's a little bit unfortunate, because you might see how things progress in time, because say you
Before
look
and
at,
after our discussion, like,
yeah,
did we
before and
persuade
after,
anyone?
exactly, something of the sort. But you can also look at it more long term to see how things would look like, say, a month from now, a year from now, or something like this.
Okay, today's poll question: do you think the ends justifies the means works for an ex-Muslim parent using coercion or force to prevent their kids from being Muslims? We only got one vote, but it's on the great side. They said no, they're free to choose, and it's my job to support them.
Yeah.
I don't know who did it. That's a good one. Oh, and we have somebody who wants to come on. Would you mind telling us what it is that you want to talk about? Let me get this off the screen. That's just one word. I don't know what you mean. Can you say more? And then what am I doing here? Let's see. What do you think? You want to put them on, even though we only know? Oh, okay. So they want to talk about eternal punishment. Cool.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
All right, I'm putting you on right now. Hi,
Hey,
Anam.
nice to see you, Rami. I was on like a few weeks ago
Cool.
with the guest.
Thanks for coming back.
I've been enjoying the presentation, actually. You guys raised some very curious. By the way, do you have to pee? You said you had to. So if you want, I could just talk to Mr. Albini.
Actually, maybe that's good. I'm going to go do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to take myself out real quick.
Okay.
Sure.
And you guys do your thing. I'll be back.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, just to let you know, we were already over time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I don't mean to keep you. Sorry then.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
No, it was a very, I think I wanted to pick your brain actually about the soul thing, just to give you a different perspective, because I everything you said was valid. People didn't understand biology, neuroscience back then, and so the soul is this like Platonic idea, like there's a version of you that exists like as a formal copy before the physical copy comes down. So to me, I love Plato, so I always think about that. But so I think you or Mr. Rustam mentioned the damage to the soul and the brain, right? I would say it this way, right? Even though, like I said, I'm not gonna suggest the more we learn about neuroscience, the less we have a need for soul. Like one very interesting I learned, the neural complexity of animals gets higher and higher and higher. When you look at a snail versus a cat or a dog versus a human, we have like 96 billion neurons in our entire body compared to like a cat. So I can see, you can explain biology, evolution, neurochemistry. Okay, so I'm not here to preach to you the dogma of a soul, but just to give you an intellectual idea, though, right? Like if your keyboard is broken and you're typing something and everything comes out wrong, like you have the function key on or something, then it's not that the soul is damaged, it's that the instrument for the communication, the brain, in my analogy, in your discussion, is the thing that's damaged. So that's how, let's say somebody has a terrible concussion or something, and the brain. So the argument, though, from the classical religious point of view would be that you haven't damaged the soul at all. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, let me push back a little bit, because when the damage is happening, we're not only talking about how the person is interacting. There are many different ways of probing what's actually happening inside, because the person can also report on what's happening. They can exhibit certain functions that become impaired. Say, for example, if you look at people who undergo lobotomy, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you start seeing them behaving in ways that are completely different depending on which side of the brain they have. So that some aspects of the right brain starts behaving in one way, the other aspect starts behaving in another way. It's as if you have two different people. Another aspect is there's a famous person, I forgot right now. It was an injury in a mine where a pole went through their brain and went out. And overnight, that person was a very restrained, well-behaved person, and all of a sudden, he started behaving in a very uncharacteristic way, saying profanities, acting in very unrestrained ways.
Yeah.
So in such a way that people did not even recognize that person anymore. If you're going to say that there is a soul and you strip away those aspects of behavior that were defining that person, what is it that you're going to have remaining for the soul? Is it just some kind of an essence that is there but is not really related to who the person is, that gets just embedded in the body and then gets outside when the person dies? It doesn't really make much sense unless you attach those functions to the brain, to the soul, in the same way that people, for the same reason that people postulated the soul in the first place. They didn't say that the soul is not doing anything. They do have a kind of a connection between who you are and the soul. Because if you look at this from a religious point of view, if your soul is the one that's going to survive and be held accountable after death, then it has to be you. And if you were completely changed as a result of some kind of a brain injury, a change, it doesn't have to be an injury, by the way, because all the time we are being incrementally changed as a result of brain chemistry, nutrients, things that are happening in the brain. It's a very complicated environment, so that at one point, whether you're taking a drug for anxiety, whether you're consuming alcohol or whatever it is, you might be changing that environment, and that environment is who you are. Some of the changes can be permanent, like that brain injury that I talked about. Some of them might be transient. And so when you're talking about the soul, if you want to connect that with the Platonic soul that we talked about before, there's something that's unchanging that exists in that world of forms, that's eternal, that's unchanging. What is it that this is going to be? I'm not sure what it's going to be. And so what happened in science is not that science discredited the existence of soul. What science did was to take away gradually the functions that are attributed to that soul, so that at the end it loses its explanatory power, and you end up with, okay, I'm still going to keep the soul, but what is it actually doing? If it's not really explaining the behavior of the person, what purpose is it doing still?
Yeah, I think that's a valid rebuttal, and I'm glad you understand the Plato. So I appreciate you, Mr. And I don't want to keep you both of you long. Mr.
We can go longer. I can. I don't know about Usama, but
I
now that
we're
I'm
overtime.
relieved of my bladder, I'm good.
You guys are overtime though, so I will let your guest go.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So, Mr. Rami, the same argument you made about, and to me, it's very logical. No matter how bad the crime is, eternal punishment is not a just punishment. The Salafis, they adore the Sheikh ul-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, right? So he wrote a book. It was called The End of the Fire, Fihi an-Nar, right? And he talks about how even if you're the most heinous person, you killed like 100 people, you tortured and killed them, eternal punishment would not be just for that crime. And so he believes that eventually hell will be emptied. And so this is like the grandfather of Salafism over here. But he's taken the same argument that you did. So I appreciate you for bringing up that argument, brother.
You can, if I may just make a comment.
Yes.
About so you can see views on both ends, and some of these views can be traced to the Quran itself, where you can see places where it appears that people are khaliduna fiha. They're not going to get outside of hell, which seems to contradict this. And then you can say other places that do support what you're saying, that at the end people are not going to stay in hell forever. But in any case, whatever the idea is, or whatever the consensus for a certain group is, the issue here has to do with the problem of eternal punishment. That's what we were talking about. Whether
Yeah.
a certain Islamic sect says, okay,
Scholar, yeah, whoever.
scholar, whoever it is saying that it's not eternal, that's actually great. That's definitely something that needs to be amplified, because when you're looking at it not only from an ethical point of view, whatever you do in this life cannot be punishable by something that's eternal, no matter what it is. Imagine that you killed all humans on the planet. Going to hell for eternity, it doesn't make sense. Similarly, going to heaven for eternity for being good is also something that doesn't make sense. You live 70 years, I don't know, 50 of them as an adult, and you're perfectly moral person. That does not warrant getting eternal
Wine from rivers.
Yeah,
And, yeah.
reward that's going to last for eternity. I would prefer to get that kind of reward in this life, so that the good that I might be doing would propagate and benefit other people. I'm not sure if I want that kind of life, whether it's hell or heaven. It's not something that I personally want.
You're saying if God sent you to heaven, you wouldn't take it?
No thanks.
Say, no,
thanks.
Send me to hell.
No.
Well, in any case, if I'm sent to hell, at least I would know that I would be with a company that's of people that I would know.
Yeah,
I hear that one all the time too. Yeah.
You know, historical note, very briefly. In Christianity, in Judaism, there's like very little discussion of hell, and in fact, there's no hell really. Like, I mean, I even heard like one idea of hell is you're in a cage and you don't learn anything, and that's a good definition of hell.
Their term for it, Sheol, is actually very much derived from the Greek Hades, where you go to the underworld. If you actually look at the Hebrew text, you would see that there's a kind of a view that seems to be similar, that you're going somewhere underground in that
deep
kind of
underground
world. And so many of these ideas of the soul, of what happens afterwards, were probably something that got imported into Christianity and later on in Islam from that Hellenistic kind of melting pot that happened. So
even in early Christianity, sorry to speak over you, they didn't believe in eternal punishment. And there was a view that, you know, either you'd be annihilated or like you just disappear, or or the thing is everybody is saved and everybody goes to heaven. That was one view also. So, but the thing is though, St. Augustine writes about eternal conscious punishment, and because baptism is so important in Christianity, he writes that even unbaptized infants will go to hell. And so but it's like not really hell. It's just like a barely hell, but it's still that corner. And so, but the thing is though, in Islam though, history, the Quran takes Augustine's view of eternal punishment and makes it canonized, and then it becomes the dominant Western point of view. So Islam influences Christianity in this way.
There's a lot of commonality when you look at what happens in medieval times in Islam and Christianity in terms of how they were influenced by Greek philosophy. The kind of progression is, even though there wasn't a lot of interaction in terms of the theology, there seems to be some parallel lines. I'm not a historian by any means, so I'm just talking about things based on my understanding. But as far as I know, there wasn't much of an interaction that influenced the two aspects or the two developments. Of course, the Christians did inherit a lot of ideas from what the Muslims got from the Greeks. So there was a kind of an indirect Muslim influence on that, but still the theologies are very different.
All right, Anna, do you have anything else you want to talk
No,
about?
no. Thank you very much for having me.
Sure.
Have a great night, and
Okay.
pleasure meeting you both. Bye.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. All right, then. Should we do? Let's see. Did I have anything else? I don't have any housekeeping. I kind of stopped doing housekeeping. Nothing bad has been happening, but we get a lot of like good job comments, but it's a lot of them, so I don't do that work anymore of gathering them to show them.
Well,
Maybe I should be. I don't know.
yeah, it wouldn't hurt sometimes to just see if there is some comment of some sort to include.
Do you want me to like what I was doing before was I take snapshots and it's a bunch of work. I could just show you my YouTube comments.
Yeah,
And that's
possibly,
cool.
but maybe not today because I actually have to.
You
leave.
gotta go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and stop it here then. Thank you everyone who's here. I'm surprised we have that many people here today right now. By the way, I noticed right around 2:00 we get more people, and to me that means, I mean, it could be I could be thinking about it wrong, but my guess is people are more free at 2:00 than 1:00.
I don't know. It depends on the geographic location.
No, it's the whole world, and it depends on which geographic location is listening to us the most. So my guess is somehow they like the 2:00 time.
Okay.
So later, when we're changing schedule, we'll try to hit the 2:00. And I mean, I think that number only means anything on a Friday. It would be different numbers for different days, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
All right, then. Bye, everyone. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay. Bye.
And stay on for a second, Usama.
Sure.